Welcome to Manufacturing Mavericks, a podcast where we showcase and celebrate exceptional people from across precision manufacturing who are boldly embracing new ways to improve their processes, grow their bottom lines, and ensure American manufacturing will thrive for generations to come. Welcome to this episode of Manufacturing Mavericks. I'm your host, Greg McHale. As the founder of Datanomix, I've had the privilege of visiting hundreds of shops all across the country. And in those visits, I've met some of the most incredible and innovative people in this industry. Our goal with the Manufacturing Mavericks podcast is to highlight those leaders, those mavericks of manufacturing who are innovating not just with technology, but with culture, people, and process too, so we can all learn not just what they do, but why they do it. We'll dig into what got them into manufacturing, what fires them up to go to work every single day and pour their blood, sweat, and tears into keeping the manufacturing dream alive in our country. With that, I am honored to introduce today's manufacturing maverick, Hernan Ricuarte. Welcome to the show, Hernan. How are you doing today?
Good. Thanks. I appreciate you having me on, Greg.
Really appreciate having you, Hernan. We know that you're a pretty impressive guy in the manufacturing space. Obviously, your company has an incredible presence on LinkedIn, lots of followers, see lots of great activity from you. So really honored to be able to hear your story today, Hernan.
Thanks, Greg.
So to start it off, Hernan, what we like to open up with here on Manufacturing Mavericks is really getting some insight into your personal journey into manufacturing. So, tell us a little bit about your background, where'd you grow up and how did you ultimately get into manufacturing?
Well, I was born on the East Coast, but I grew up in Southern California, got an economics degree and went to Japan. Basically studied the Japanese language, got into the medical device and healthcare industry there. Between the US and Japan, spent a total of 10 years living in Japan. Really just honed in my focus and my career in Japan and the US. And that continued on for 20 some odd years. At one point, I moved the family back. My children were small and I was traveling to Tokyo every 2 weeks, and here 2 weeks, Tokyo 2 weeks, here 2 weeks. During that period of time, my father, who had a machine shop, started it when I was in high school, was thinking of selling it. And that's where I, gained an interest in looking into the business and decided to give it a shot. So here we are 7 years later with me fully dedicated and really excited about what we're doing here at Ricaurte Precision.
Wow. And so when you say giving it a shot, had you done odd jobs inside of the business while your dad owned it when you were younger, or was it not really an interest of yours?
Genuinely not really an interest of mine.
Wow.
So when I remember being maybe 14, 15 years old and my dad having me come into the shop and measure some things. And I got yelled at so much for every single thing that I did that I decided this is not for me. To be honest, with the first 30 years of my father having the business, I stepped foot into the building or the buildings that he's had maybe 2 or 3 times, to take him out to lunch. And that was about it.
So dad's getting ready to sell and it piques your interest. What drew you to that?
Initially, it really was the business side of things. He asked my sister and I to take a look at, the financials and, how the business looked and things like that, because he wanted us involved in, whatever transaction he was getting involved in. And that's where my sister and I and my brother-in-law sort of took a look at things, looked at what I was doing and, how I was away from home so much and how we did not want to just hand this over to anyone who would not put a concerted effort into building upon what my dad started. That's where the interest led. And, I jumped in head first. I'm very excited to make this a more growing and an established organization than it was back then.
So really a lot of it out of family pride and honoring your dad.
I wouldn't be that dramatic about it, Greg. It's just, I don't know about the honoring my dad part. But again, in part, I guess, again, you've got a good, stable business with opportunities that may be untapped, some areas where I felt that, we could make some investments and with some concerted effort and discipline, we could put in processes and procedures and grow. And so that's what we've been trying to do for the past 6.5 years.
So when you came into the business, what did it look like? Numbers of machines, numbers of employees, facility size?
We're in the same building. So we've got just over 14,000 square feet here in the middle of Orange County in Southern California. This area is very much an aerospace medical device, like a microeconomy. When I stepped in, we were in this same building. We had about 18, 19 machines and 20, 22, 23 employees. Today, we've got 26 machines, some 5-axis pallet systems, twin turret, a lot of live tooling lathes and wire EDMs. And we've got about 40 employees now.
So machine count up, 20%, but knowing, what I've seen in your shop when I've been out there, definitely some serious investments in technology that you've made. So how did you end up doubling the employee count, with the machines going up 20% like that?
Again, we tried to be, as careful as possible in our planning and prioritizing. The first couple of years, to be honest, I think looking back on it, I was probably spinning my wheels quite a bit. These types of businesses, there's never ending opportunities for improvement. And so we've really made a concerted effort in implementing processes and procedures and planning out our investments. But, no matter how much planning and implementation you do, you always have to take some concerted risks, right? So, that we've done and learned from, some of our smaller mistakes, but things like some of the digital technologies that we've been investing in, and some of the automation that we've been investing in have been really paying off for us.
So processes and procedures, you mentioned that, really, really thorough planning. How does that play into the culture of your shop?
You bring up a good point, because we've got, some great, automation. We've got some great digital technologies that help us, but without the team understanding why we're doing this and how it benefits them, we will be spinning our wheels. We will have just a lot of nice fancy machines and a lot of monitors out there that are not being used. We take our culture very, very seriously. And the things like, for example, we have this thing called the 4 C's, cynical, complacent, committed, and compelled, and so we always talk about, where we fall into these categories and, what does committed mean? What does compelled mean? We talk about prior to bringing in any technologies or automation. We talk about it. We review it. We have hands-on meetings every month where we share our quarterly goals or annual goals. We go over revenue. We go over, all areas of training and things like that we're trying to do. So we try to be as upfront as possible with everyone and have an open door policy relative to what we're trying to do. And if anyone has questions or whatever, because we want everyone to be just as excited as we are about the future of the company and the technologies and processes that we're bringing in.
You're even putting revenue right out there on the shop floor as part of your regular updates with the team.
Right. Absolutely.
That's interesting because there's, a lot of folks I've spoken with. Some people like to do that. They think it creates alignment. Some people think it creates conflict. How do you present that to the employees and what do you see as their reaction to it?
Everyone wants to be with a winner, and we want to be winners. Sharing our successes and our growth is super important because it provides our employees with motivation that, they are part of something that is growing. With regard to revenue is not everything. We are pretty open with how much our investments cost us as well. And again, nothing's ever perfect. You can never make everyone fully understand what's going on, but everyone is part of this growth and they see the change. And for us, what we stress to everybody is, as long as we are better than we were last week, we're doing something right. So let's just keep on moving forward and keep on growing, and again, celebrating the wins and discussing some of the losses is also critical in this process.
That's fantastic. And how do you guys end up celebrating the wins that you have?
Probably don't celebrate enough, but, things like, the food coming in, during the hands-on meetings, celebrating wins for individuals, doing, small prizes, small competitions, whether it's, it's something that we trained on or someone that brought in a very good idea that we've been able to effectively implement. We try to recognize this and sometimes, it's small, financial, gifts and bonuses and things like that. But, it doesn't have to be a huge amount, but just making sure you're recognizing those individuals that are stepping up and making a difference is super important.
Absolutely. And that's awesome that, that you bring everybody together, that you have those conversations. I think that you're transparent about the losses too is pretty unique, right? One of the easiest things in a leadership position is to think that you want to, maybe protect the team from things that didn't go as well. But, isn't that most often where some of the greatest inspiration of how to be better comes from?
I agree. Yeah. You just put it all out there. Is this, You have to be careful with some things, but yeah, I mean, we're all human. We have our good days, we have our bad days. And as long as we're communicating, we'll be making progress, I think.
Definitely. So you mentioned investments a few times as well, digital technologies, some machining technologies. I know you've got those nice Matsuras in the back, palletized, lots of automation. How did you make some of the, investment decisions that you did? And what are some of the biggest impact investments that you've seen in the last year or two?
On the mill side, we went from, 3-axis machines, 3+2, some 4-axis machines, all the way to a big jump forward in a 32 pallet, 320 tool station, big Matsura automated system. And we did that. The machine came in and we got it running 1 month before the COVID shutdown. So our plan was that we had, a handful of parts that we can run, but the plan really was to fill up that machine as best we could by pursuing opportunities that we were trying to line up. But COVID came. We were able to offer very aggressive expedites because of that machine, ramping up of higher volume because of those machines. That, in a way, helped us significantly and helped us differentiate from everyone else we're competing with here locally. That worked out so well that we bought another one. So, wherever we can automate, we will automate. And similar on the lathe side as well, some, 12-foot bar feed, twin turret machines and things like that. On the other side, with buying the big, pretty machines and it makes the shop look very sexy, but you need, training, you need the discipline that goes along with it. You need process procedures. And then how do you keep all of that information and scheduling and data tracking and everything organized? Well, that's where the digital technologies and the digital technology partners come into play. So for us, our digital ERP system, ProShop, has been, a significant help to us, the backbone of what we do, keeping everything as digital as possible, helping to drive efficiency and transparency in what we're doing and who's doing what, so we can hold people accountable. So, with that, with Datanomix, which is fantastic for us, because again, you can't have eyes and ears everywhere. And if you're able to educate and train your team to appreciate these technologies, they start finding ways of using the technologies and also turning to you and saying, look what I did. Look how successful we were this time as opposed to the last time we ran these parts. So things like that, it's just, you gain a positive momentum, when you bring everyone together and you try to get these guys involved and shift them from being, complacent and committed to being compelled in being a part of the successes with all of these technologies.
That is, fantastic. How about that's another great way of celebrating the wins is look at how we closed it out in ProShop. Look at what, the Datanomix monitoring data says we did 10%, 20% better this time. And, if you're tying that to revenue and investments and things, the opportunity that creates inside the company for you to do more, right? To continue to invest in technology.
Yeah. And what's awesome is that you guys are talking to each other. When the technology talks to each other, it is just so incredibly helpful and seamless. So, we've got, when we do our programming, we make sure that we have a little bit of additional text in there to make sure that ProShop is recognizing the Datanomix data so that it is automated and seamless for us, so that we have the data coming in from Datanomix into ProShop and everything is captured. We're able to avoid unnecessary steps and allow our employees to focus on what they're doing, as opposed to, taking extra steps and trying to make things work or make things link together.
Shout out to Team ProShop on that great integration we did. Really appreciate that one, Hernan. In terms of, you're talking about all these digital technologies and you're really using, you've got ProShop, you've got Datanomix, you've got paperless parts, you've got high QA as well, right?
Correct. Yep.
So you're really using the leading technologies that folks see for all these different workflows. You also talked about, you've got the pallet machines, you've got the fancy shiny new machines. How does that, influence how you onboard new employees bringing them into your shop where you have maybe digital technologies they haven't experienced before, or maybe even machining technologies that are different from where they came from?
Things are moving so fast in a way, Greg, that appropriate onboarding is something that we need to work on more, but it is a requirement for everyone to be intimately knowledgeable with ProShop, and whatever machines we're using monitoring on, they have to be intimately familiar with Datanomix. We use the paperless parts 3D viewer on all of our machines. So basically what we stress to anyone on the floor or in the planning area or, quality and other peripheral areas that help support the machining is that there is no excuse of not having everything at your fingertips. Because of all of these digital technologies, anyone on the machine next to a machine cannot say, I didn't have an approved drawing with bubble prints. I don't have the in-process inspection forms. It's all there. And if it's not there during the Gemba walks, you have to raise your hand and speak up, because if not, it's on your plate. I'm maybe not answering the onboarding question appropriately, but, we do have, there are great videos. Even Matsura has a little academy that they have. High QA does. Datanomix has great videos. ProShop has a forum in that. So we have our guys, we sit them down and we have them review with others on a regular basis, especially when they're onboarding. But really what it comes down to, it's on the job training, and, in bits and pieces. Again, you can't absorb everything in one day. But as long as everyone knows that the expectation is for one to be self-sufficient in their area, with, being able to capture as much information as possible with the technologies that are in front of them, then, it helps, because everyone else is doing it and everyone else is here to help one another.
That's fantastic. And I'm guessing, from a recruiting standpoint, that's got to be a competitive advantage for you, that folks who come in are seeing that you're trying to put everything at their fingertips and make it as easy as possible. And
it also more quickly tells you and the potential employee if this is a fit or not. Because again, accountability is extremely important. People that are coming in here for interviews and what have you, immediately recognize that, there's no hiding. There's no, this is my information, or I know this, or I'm not going to share, or, I can get away with this. It just can't happen here. I mean, and again, you can never say never, right? But it's difficult to do. And here it's very much a team environment, and nothing's perfect. We've got, there are bad days in that, but, everyone's pretty much on the same page and responsible for being able to control and make use of the technologies that they're working with.
Sure. I mean, yeah. So you're putting it right out there. Like, hey, we have a culture of excellence. We measure things. We're transparent about everything, and we want everyone best equipped to hit those aggressive growth goals that we're putting in front of you.
Correct.
That's awesome. I know, Hernan, you're also very active in NTMA and different events there. Maybe talk a little bit about how that has influenced, your thinking about your shop and your culture and, the last 7 years of evolving the business.
When I joined, again, my father was, quite old school, extremely, extremely disciplined and hardworking, but he didn't really interact too much with the manufacturing community. And me coming in with no, machining or programming, engineering knowledge per se, really felt that I needed to be exposed to what was going on. So I went to an LA NTMA meeting where there was an open forum at a machine shop. And I got an opportunity to meet different machine shop owners and leaders and see different technologies. And that was just huge for me. Since then, I've been getting more involved and trying to give back whatever little I can, considering how much I've gained. So yes, I'm a board member of the LA NTMA. I see the LA NTMA as a fantastic platform to leverage, all of the knowledge and experience we have together as a group to help one another succeed, and there is some some, I guess, small-minded way of thinking that, oh my gosh, I can't let this person in my shop. They might steal my ideas or my people or whatever. But if you live in that, narrow world, that's where you're going to be. You're going to be in a narrow world. So, we have a pretty open door policy here, of having, other LA NTMA members and others from NTMA and even outside NTMA come and visit and talk and share, successes, share, some challenges that we're facing because, we are all working in a very challenging environment. I've spoken about this before, but, just the term shop, job shop just really sort of rubs me the wrong way, Greg. Considering, we're making such sophisticated, parts, with incredible tolerances going up into satellites, in the military, into medical devices and things like that. And, I mentioned this before, but I was at one of my son's soccer games about a month ago, and this other dad turned to me and said, "Oh, Hernan, that guy over there also has a shop. Yeah, I think he works on BMWs." I was just thinking, man, what are we doing to ourselves? Here in Southern California, you can't take your car to get repaired and pay less than $180 an hour.
Right.
But how difficult is it for us to justify $180 an hour shop rate, with all of our customers, so we're just, and considering how capital intensive, this business is, I mean, we need to help market ourselves a little bit better. There's all this talk of increasing the minimum wage. Well, my gosh, if someone working in a McDonald's is getting close to $20 an hour, how much should our setup machinists or programmers be making? Again, I think just as a community, we need to, come together a little bit and help market ourselves a little bit better and help us, improve our image and protect ourselves a little bit, because what we are doing is incredible work.
It truly is. I mean, and what a great way to encapsulate it, Hernan. We're going to dub you the head of the movement to rename shop to a much sexier word that describes how challenging, how difficult, and how amazing the products are that are produced in facilities like yours, right? Shop is, a class you take in high school, right? It's
exactly
a lot of other words.
Shop or what have you, right? Yeah. There's people out there that leaps and bounds smarter than me. I mean, advanced manufacturing. There's so many other terms that we could use that we should be using.
I mean, your company has this word in it, right? The word precision. Definitely have seen that as a major movement of the last several years to, really separate the technology oriented and advanced manufacturing companies, to say what we are doing is hard and complex and requires that precision to be able to produce it.
Right. Exactly.
NTMA, obviously a huge resource helping you learn, really how to get into the industry. Like you said, jump in head first. And it's funny that you brought up shop, because the next place I wanted to go with you is, what are some of the most challenging things you see in terms of running a job shop? But I guess we got to come up with a different term than job shop for me to ask you that question.
Yeah. We don't work on engines here, Greg.
So what are some of the biggest challenges of running an advanced manufacturing facility that has such diverse requirements? How's that or not?
That's a great question, Greg. Well, there are many. Just going back like to NTMA and community and things like that. I mean, first of all, I think this is maybe a little bit, people might disagree, but I think there are way too many machine shops, in the city that we are in Orange County, in sort of the middle of Orange County, a place called Santa Ana. There are well over 100 machine shops, and, everyone talks about, oh gosh, it's so hard to find people and hire people. Well, yeah, it's because there's too many of us, and unfortunately, a lot of shops are closing down. They were started by baby boomers who are very smart, incredible machinists, programmers, technicians, have been so focused in the technical side at times that maybe they haven't had the opportunity to invest the resources and time in maybe developing their businesses a little bit more, where they have more processes and procedures in place and to scale through technology and things like that. But I think there's going to be a lot of consolidation going forward, good or bad. But as far as challenges are concerned, yeah, I mean, running a small business, we cannot benefit from economies of scale. And that is a huge frustration for me, walking in the shop every morning and thinking, my gosh, we should be doing better here. If we could only get better pricing on certain things how can you, when I may have mentioned this earlier, but, when I first came on board with my dad, 6.5 years ago, I remember him getting on the phone and talking to guys asking for quotes on, aluminum for, a couple feet of aluminum. And I'm thinking, my God, spending that much time on the phone to buy $80 of material. I mean, how inefficient is that? And it still exists, but it's crazy how inefficient we are just because of our size. So I'm not saying the small is bad, but I think there's a lot of things that we could be doing, should be doing to be more efficient. And that's why for us, the most valuable resource we have are our people, and the experience we have and how we share that experience and how we implement, that experience, and just maximizing that and automating as much as possible is what we want to do. But it takes time because that takes money too. So chicken, egg situation, sort of like us with the 5-axis pallet systems. I mean, from some other business perspective, I had no right to be spending that much money on something at that time, but, we were fortunate to have done it. But, being small, we have to take some big risks sometimes. I don't know if I really answered your question, but it's, there's again, so many areas to improve on, but so much we can do based on our limited resources.
I think you encapsulated it perfectly, Hernan. I mean, I totally agree with you on the consolidation, front, by the way. I think, let's say there's approximately 30,000 machine shops in the United States today. I think we can easily see that number over the next several years, get down to 15, 20,000 shops, but probably twice as many, machines, as you have to consolidate the footprint into the companies that are making the investments to do the advanced methods that get the high value work, that kind of keep that cycle flowing. And obviously, a lot of private equity dollars flowing into the space too. They very clearly see it the same way. If you think about going back in time to when you first jumped in to the shop, coming at it really without that manufacturing background, what do you know today that you wish you could tell that version of yourself?
There's different stages, I think, Greg, with regard to how I approach things. And it's probably very different from, other individuals with, more technical experience than me. But I think initially I probably would have invested in the digital technologies a little bit earlier in order to capture more data and organize data from the beginning a little bit earlier. And because that would have allowed us to get a better understanding of what our costs were. Are we making money on parts or not? Look, and, everything from material asset processing, things like that, capturing that data, because the data is all over the place, right? I mean, in all of our businesses, it's just, there's so much data, but how do you collect it efficiently and make good use of it? So I think that's definitely one area that I look back on and just think, man, what lost opportunities because we weren't organizing the data well, so we weren't able to plan as effectively as we should have.
What a great plug for all those investments that you've made that you're clearly seeing, pay off at this point in the journey, and definitely, approaching it as you did, maybe without having that, innate, shop floor feel that maybe comes from that old school methodology. That's actually an advantage, right? Because you have to bear it out and you have to prove it.
That's true. The tribal knowledge stuff has always been super scary to me. It is so dangerous, man. And still, the guys here, it's like we call them sort of old man stories, where you've got some guys that are very successful, extremely smart, but they just talk about, oh, I can do this, or I used to do this. And, this is how difficult this was. Well, if you're the only one that can do it, then of what benefit is it? Because you can't scale with that, and it's not all about scaling, but for us, scaling is super important because again, we're trying to grow and be more efficient and take advantage of some economies of scale. But without sharing that knowledge and making it repeatable and automating it, then, you're not going to be going too much further down the road with regard to growth and improvement.
Love it, Hernan. Love the growth focus, love the growth mindedness, and that you do, put the money where the mouth is, make those investments, and that you're very transparent with the team about what you're spending, what it's doing for you, and how that aligns with your goals as an organization. That is exactly what we look for when we talk about manufacturing Mavericks, that unique way of thinking, that that special set of ingredients that gives us unique perspective on how to thrive in the difficult and challenging and complex manufacturing environment that we have today. Hernan, you've been fantastic. Really, really appreciate having you on the show today, and wish you continued success, continued growth. And I'll make sure our team stays on top of that data for you, and it continues to bear out the success that I know you guys are having with the efficiency gains that you're getting from all those digital technologies. So thanks again, Hernan. Been a real pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you, Greg. And no, you guys have been great. And yeah, I mean, the relationships that we have with Datanomix and the benefits we're getting from that data and having it organized and automated is just incredible. And it just makes our team and our organization stronger. So I really appreciate what you guys are doing.
Appreciate hearing that, and always more than willing to help and support our customers in any way we can. So thanks very much, Hernan.
All right. Thank you, Greg.
All right. You take care.
All right. You too. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Manufacturing Mavericks. If you'd like to learn more, listen to past episodes, or nominate a future Maverick to be on our show, visit mfgmavericks.com. And don't forget to subscribe to and rate this podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, or your favorite podcast app.